Good morning, hello, goodbye, and I really hope that this is my final take. On today's episode, I'll show you that you really can do anything with AI. We're only limited by our imagination, and if you let your imagination run wild and every now and then bite off more than you can chew, you'll be surprised by what you can do. So in this project, I decided to solve a problem for podcasters. Podcasters Podcasters are a really unique customer type. First of all, it's a really growing space. Tons of podcasters popping up all the time, adding great value from podcasters with just a few dozen or 100 listeners to thousands or millions or hundreds of millions of listeners like Lex and Joe and so on and so forth. So, why do I like this space? One, because there are a lot of them and they're all over the place and they talk and people listen. The other one is they talk to each other, so there's network effects. The other one is they have problems with editing. Editing is really challenging, takes a lot of time. And where there's long form content, there's long form editing. So, can we automate a tool to make editing easier for podcasters so they can focus on what they love, which is having great conversations? We could focus on what we love, which is listening to them. One of the biggest challenges of this is that I was forking off Audacity. I had a big decision to make. Do I go with Audacity's stable V3 release, which is feature poor and quite buggy, sitting on a lot of technical debt, feature rich, I might have said feature poor, or do I go with the new unstable release, the Alpha 2 release of Audacity 4? And because of the ongoing prospects of V4, as well as the mission of this project, which was to become challenged and experience something new, I decided to struggle with Audacity 4. And I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of sleepless nights working on this in the past week. It took 2.5 days just to get a build working. The setup instruction documentation didn't even work. I had to figure it out on the fly. So, what is the stack? Well, first we could talk about value, right? Um, what is the stack that we're built on? V4 is built on Qt or Qt, which is a very stable, platform agnostic application framework. Qt might be used for restaurant or industrial screen applications. They're even used in cars for those new digital dashboards that have been around for a few years. Let's say like CarPlay. I'm not sure if CarPlay itself was built on it, but I think the Tesla application is built in Qt. Qt is a C++ backend. On top of it is QML, or it could be widget based. I think that Audacity 4 is going for monolith QML with widget-based application development. On top of that, my cursor element, my orchestrator, planner, and so on and so forth are built with 4.0 Mini in OpenAI, and I use Assembly AI for transcription. Well, really, until now, I should have been recording here so that I could give you a demo of what we're actually going to do. I'm not sure if audio is recording. Okay, it looks like it is. So we'll keep going for now. This application has a lot of cool features, typical features that are typical in Audacity. The thing is, if you're a podcaster, you don't really have time to learn the interface of Audacity. Unfortunately, we don't need to be clicking buttons all the time in order to be accomplishing what we want to with audio. So let me pause this and I'll give you an example. If I want to split here, I don't know where the split tool is here. They make it easy, but let's just tell our AI assistant to split at cursor. Now what's happening here, it's actually quite complicated, and this was an area where a brain lift was really necessary. The way that tools are called in C++ is that they're not passed through with parameters the way a function call or a tool call that OpenAI is running would think. They're actually passing a global, which is searching the canvas, the timeline for state. And because state here is expected to have a selection on a particular clip within a track, When we have ambiguous instructions like under a cursor or at 15 seconds when no clip is selected, but a track is always selected, then now our AI has to figure out how do we fill that gap. And there were two ways of approaching it. Do we attack a lower level C++ function, or do we call the global function, but before doing so, modify the state of the canvas so that when the low level function calls, we don't have to change anything in there and it does what it normally would do, which is access the function statement. So this is basic functionality, but what can we do to make podcast life more exciting and actually better? So let's transcribe the audio. We have a number of benefits here. I'll walk you through. Here, originally, I wanted to use OpenAI Whisper's the best-in-class model, but OpenAI Whisper, one of the reasons it's the best-in-class model is because they filter out filler words, they filter false starts, and so on. DeepGram was my next choice because for filler words, but their web application was completely busted, couldn't even create an account. It's been an issue on their repo, on their GitHub since February. It's something they really need to figure out. So I ended up using Assembly AI, which has been a wonderful solution to use. Basically, it took several clicks to get an API key, and who knows how much I'm going to end up paying for it. But let's check it out. As you can see here on the bottom, we've got our transcription. The exciting thing about that and so it's transcribed audio, and the words are broken out according to timestamp. And then I could run an analysis where it searches for filler words and tells me how I've done. I use the word so and actually a lot, like, and so on and so forth. My pacing feels slightly rushed, which is good to know, because sometimes I'm worried that I'm speaking too slowly and the energy isn't carrying. And that I repeat the phrase typical features that are typical in Audacity. It's a repetitive phrase. So this has been amazing feedback as a podcaster. I could, if I want, re-record those phrases, or I could understand what are my tendencies and try to catch them and improve my speech in the future. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good night.